The Switch's signature controllers, the Joy-Cons, are somewhat of a mixed bag when it comes to discussing its quality. Back in the legendary Switch presentation last January, there were many people who said the time spent showing off the controllers was a waste and it was heading a Wii U-like gimmicky demise, and others who were but amazed from the sheer number of features each of the two Joy-Cons had packed into their small frame. Today, I want to discuss what the current state and effect Joy-Cons have on the Switch and the gaming scene as a whole. To start, let's look at the first thing we all looked at and got mixed opinions on: launch day and the feel of using the Joy-Cons. Almost immediately, people dissed the small size of the Joy-Con buttons, and the Joy-Con grip was also not a good midpoint to a Pro Controller for many, including me, which is a whole other topic, the Joy-Con grip, but most people were still babying the Switch in the dock, and the Joy-Cons didn't get enough credit for being phenomenal controllers in handheld mode. Everyone worldwide seemed to agree that hands-free, laid-back mode with a controller wherever you wish was a good way to play and was probably the most popular for a good while. I personally like the sideways Joy-Con mode. It's comfortable to me, as I'm also a kid after all, and sharing the joy was also as simple and awkward as commercially portrayed.
Games.
You want a Joy-Con? You want to
We
get your
call
ass
this
nuts?
sharing the joy.
Here you go. Get your ass
So-
nuts, please.
It was awkward, but it did lead to some fun co-op times in class. One to Switch was a mistake and buying it even more, but it did lead to the next point I want to address. Feature packing. Joy-Con LNR both had about 8 to 10 rumbling engines, accurate, if implemented correctly, gyro sensors and accelerometers to sense your movement more accurately than a Wiimote can ever dream to. And the Joy-Con R also had an NFC chip reader and writer inside of the joystick itself, and an IR sensor in its rear. The IR sensor was told in the presentation to be able to read shapes of hands, signs, and distance, and the HJ Rumble motors have been said to emulate grasping of objects and simulate real actions. And now in execution, HJ Rumble was kind of a coin flip for a while. Some games implemented it to a degree, but nothing too grand, like compared to like usual Xbox grade vibration, and like the heartbeat during the Mama's Heart fight in Isaac, or showing secret walls near you in the Mighty Gunvolt Burst. The Rumble didn't really get any real use until some Wii game, but really got widely recognized as a thing with Super Mario Odyssey that polished every action in the game with perfectly places, things and tilts for every action. Throwing your head, jumping, landing, walking, sitting down, dying, every single thing in this game is given a smirk of identity and immersion. Seriously, the Joy-Cons somehow make a slide whistle sound while stretching your legs. Let me try and get this on the recording. Y'all hearing this? It's crazy. Compare this to the mediocre to stupid ball count minigame, HD Rumble really is something to polish off a game to perfection and not build a game around it. The IR sensor. The IR sensor was given one use in one game, which is One to Switch, and it's not even a multiplayer game, it's for one person, the only one-person game on One to Switch, making it even more of an oddball. I see no justification for this, especially with its ridiculous placement. Like, how will you ever use this? And possibly shaving off $10 off of every Joy-Con bundle would have gone a long way. Not even curious to see what else can come from this one. But overall, the Joy-Cons came a bit more packed than they could have, but mostly it was just added benefit that just gave the console a bit more life and places to improve games with. And that brings me to the biggest feature of these things aside from regular human buttons: motion sensors. Accelerometers and gyroscopes have been added into both Joy-Cons to make them both act like a Vive controller in a way, except they don't rely on any outside source. They track the distance and motion between each other, meaning that they can't exactly tell if your hands are close or far from your body or high in the air, but they do the job. Initially, because of poor implementation of the sensors in Breath of the Wild Switch port, and yet again One to Switch, being what it is, the controller's motion detection got a pretty bad rap, but once games like ARMS and Splatoon 2 that made fantastic use of movement detection in each one, Splatoon obviously was meant to be used with either the grip or handheld mode, and at that it functioned incredibly well, while ARMS was the game that really struck out to me as how motion controls can be implemented into a game. As a pure alternative, playing with the thumbs up grip style is fair game against any normal button presser player. The motion controls, again, were fairly well executed in Mario Odyssey, where they were solid alternatives to using buttons. Although that game had multiple trade-offs between motion and buttons, but each to their own playstyle, really. Motion controls in games will always be a thing of choice and just personal opinion, and the Switch giving you that choice really did mean a lot for the console. Finally, I want to take a look at some other bullet points I think the Joy-Cons had going for or against themselves. First of all, on launch, there was a big thing with the left Joy-Con, but whether that had to do with the Bluetooth receiver being in a weird spot or anything, the issue is still somewhat present if you have objects other than the dock in between your main unit and the controller, which isn't something you should have anyway. The best thing about the little things is their battery. I have not once received a low battery notification on a Joy-Con, and they can really survive for days with the regular cycle of using them, placing on main unit when not playing, picked up again. The freestyle of using one in each hand is very new for gaming. It's something that you really can't do with any other console or PC, don't even try. And again, multiplayer right out of the box is nothing to laugh at. I don't know if I like how the NFC chip is placed inside the joystick, but I don't have any amiibos so I can tell, and how does that even physically fit in there? And lastly, make reversible wrist straps. Who thought this was fun? Come on. So yeah, overall the Joy-Cons are still a confusing thing. They might not be better than a Pro Controller or even an Xbox 360 controller, but they provide a new way to approach games, both as a player and a developer. That they just have everything every controller had and don't have anything exclusive to make them a gimmick. They might not be fully utilized by third-party games ever, but they still provide many windows of opportunities, and I hope they get changed in the future. Also, why? Why is there an IR sensor? Please, one reason. This is dumb. Thanks for watching. I was Books. Bye.
Pick up the controller.